عندي 106 سنين 106 سنين الحمد لله.
Hello, and welcome to Meet Us on the Abraham Path. I'm Anissa Mehdi, Executive Director of the Abraham Path Initiative, and we're meeting here every other week to bring the people and places and programs of the Abraham Path Initiative right into your home. Abraham Path Initiative, or API as we call it for short, promotes walking as a tool for intercultural experiences and to foster friendships across the challenging divides of our times. Walking is a tool for coming together, for communication, and for building alliances. It's a way to build bridges and a way to cross bridges. API promotes walking in the part of the world we call Southwest Asia. You may typically hear it called the Middle East. This region has seen its share of oppression and protest over the centuries, and it keeps bouncing right back with people who are unstoppably hospitable. Hospitality is carried out in the tradition of the legendary Ibrahim in Arabic, who they say walked through ancient Mesopotamia with his family, sharing hospitality with people they met along the way. On today's webinar, we introduce you to two professionals that will ease your way into the spectacular landscapes and experiences of Southwest Asia. Both have staked their careers and livelihoods on travel and hospitality. First, I'll introduce you to Carmen Scholten from the shores of Aqaba, Jordan. Welcome, Carmen. Carmen is the owner and general manager of Into Jordan, and that's written with a number 2, Into Jordan. Carmen has a marketing degree from Stenden University in the Netherlands, where she focused on sustainable entrepreneurship and cross-cultural management. She's lived in Jordan for a decade and 5 years now in Aqaba, where she's raising 2 little boys. I love Jordan. I lived there for a year, Carmen, and it wasn't nearly long enough. I also want to introduce Dimitri Khashram, who is the inbound manager for Aeolus tours. And I remember so well, Dimitri, our last meeting in Jerusalem about a year and a half ago, sitting in that beautiful outdoor restaurant in the Jerusalem Hotel right outside his institution there, and meeting your father. Yours is a family business, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Hi, everyone. Yes, we are a family business and we are based in Jerusalem. It's basically generational, and I've been very lucky to have had 2 parents who have been in the industry for so many years to teach me almost everything I know today.
And Carmen, what brought you to this industry?
Right. Well, everything in my life, basically, I roll from the one into the other. And when was it? In 2019, I once drove a car from Amsterdam to Aqaba. I fell in love with a man in Jordan. That love didn't continue, but my love for the country was still there, which made me stay in the region. I really love the people here, the hospitality, and how they treat their visitors. Sometimes I feel Jordanian, sometimes I still feel a visitor, so I say I'm not half Jordanian by now, and I really love to live my life here and also together with my family. It's fantastic.
Wonderful. Well, things have changed over the years. You've been in Jordan, Carmen, and certainly Dimitri, for you were born and raised, I think, in Jerusalem or near. What is it like right now? We are all coming out of this, or still involved, it was 3 months now, in the COVID crisis. Tourism is at a standstill. People are wearing masks. There are these social or physical distancing practices in place. What are you seeing, and how is it impacting your work? Let's have Carmen speak first.
Right. So, well, it's very strange over here because we went on a full lockdown and a military curfew, so we were not allowed to go in or out of the house even in the first days. Aqaba was one of the first governorates to open up, and the rest of the country followed in stages later on. But it's a strange thing, because you can't meet with your friends anymore. That's from me personally. But more important, all the people on the Abraham path are in rural areas. The majority of the income over there comes from people who are walking on the path. So with the closure of schools, especially those with two people who needed to in a household that needed to work to provide to the family, or single moms, they've been hit very hard. So of course, the whole economy of Jordan with this lockdown also went downhill. So that's really troublesome. And yeah, so that's my worry. However, at the moment, everything is opening up again, and we are allowed to travel within the governorates, between governorates, unless we will have a lot of new corona cases here. But so far, so good.
So far, so good. Well, it's a familiar scene. I lived outside New York City, and that sounds very familiar. How about for you, Dimitri?
So we got hit pretty hard from the COVID-19 crisis. As you can imagine, we lost a lot of jobs in this period from tourism, almost every sector, and especially the most affected people are, of course, on the Abraham path, as Carmen mentioned. And this is not different in other countries. It's just the path itself goes in rural areas, which gives a lot of these people income and a livelihood, and they've been hit the hardest in that regard. Though we have been also under severe lockdowns, though not a military one as in Jordan, but still a very rough one, and it was policed actually. And it was pretty rough. Like, I mean, I moved into a new apartment. My parents moved a couple floors above me, and I could not see them for like a month. And so it was kind of terrible that way. But things are opening back up. It's still a bit shaky because we have been getting new cases, and there have been a few new spikes. But the good thing is that they're not huge in numbers, although they are adding up slowly, but they are not huge in numbers. And the other good thing is that the medical staff that we have locally have had a good few months to educate themselves on how to deal with these situations. So we're looking at a good culmination in the end, but it's going to take a bit of time.
Well, I wanted you to know that there are about 40 people listening to this right now, and I'm sure every one of them from Iraq and Palestine and Germany and England and across the United States, I'm sure every one of us listening can relate to what you're describing, because we're all in that same boat. We're all on the same rock, third rock from the sun, as they call it. You both are tour operators. Now, when I was a broadcast reporter for 20 years, and I would make my own arrangements when I went to travel and interview people and report, I didn't know what a tour operator was until I took the job here at Abraham Path Initiative. Would you enlighten me again and our audiences about what the role of a tour operator is for a traveler? All right, Dimitri, you go first this time.
Okay. So for me, the role of a tour operator, specifically an inbound operator, is to craft experiences for travelers from around the world. It's not to provide something that already exists, but to create experiences for people to remember. And for me, the closest example, and I saw this when I lived in Rome, the closest example to what a tour operator does is, for example, when you go to a pizza place. We're not selling the pizza, and we're not selling the restaurant. We're selling the experience of eating that pizza. And so, like, this is in very rough terms what we do. Is just people don't know about the pizza, and it's our job to create that experience for them.
All right, that's interesting. How about you, Carmen? What can you add to that?
So yes, of course, it's about creating experiences. Basically, what we do is we package everything that you can find on Booking.com, because we are here in the country. We know what we are doing. The local people that don't know how to use the internet that well, we are able to connect you with them. So basically, everybody who comes from outside to Jordan can book a package with us from A to Z, where we not only we introduce you to those experiences. We are also very fast in it, and you will have. We add our value to all of these things by doing this very fast and for a nice price as well. Anita, your sound is off.
Thank you. We're all getting so good at this. Mute on, mute off, camera on, camera off. Appreciate that. Carmen, I know you have a presentation to share with us, which will describe current events and where you're headed with Into Jordan. Dimitri and I will step back for a bit and enjoy what you've got to show us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. So today I was asked to show how we have been dealing with the COVID crisis, and I made a presentation for you together with my team on what we did, because what we did was, I think, rather amazing, because we didn't sit still and we were very fast in switching over to something alternative. So this is the timeline. So it starts around November 2019, and I will walk you through it with some pictures. Yes, there we go. Oh, so in, 1 second. Here we go. In November, we were worried about over-tourism. There were so many people in Petra, especially those big hop-on, hop-off buses, the cruise ships. They went to Petra, and if you went on the wrong time to Petra, you could end up in a situation like this in between all of those daily tourists. In January, we were promoting Jordan and the region on European travel fairs and road shows. And in February, we had a trip with our team to celebrate how well it went, and to see our suppliers and to do site inspections to become better in providing experiences to you. We did, for example, we added an Amman alternative tour to our products, where you can see Amman through local eyes with Anas, who is a tourism student in Amman, and also empower the youth to do something new with tourism. We went to Fainan, of course, one of the best, rewarded as one of the best eco lodges in the world. And of course, to Wadi Rum, we went through the whole country in a few days. In the beginning of March, we hired new people. We increased our staff by 20% because Jordan was so popular at that moment, we couldn't handle the requests that came in and the bookings. And then March 14, the announcement of the closures begins. I was about to cry. It was devastating. We had so many cancellations. We needed to help everybody out of the country, and we did so. It's a lot of work, and we were able to do it, but it was a horrible situation because we don't do nothing. We have so much pleasure in showing Jordan to international guests and to build bridges and to show this local culture to people, and then we couldn't do it anymore. So we started evacuating everybody out of the country. So after that, as we discussed previously, the national defense law was put in place, which meant that nobody could go outside. And by April 7th, we had everybody postponed, rescheduled for later, at least a lot of our customers, which we're very thankful for. And we started to circulate a domestic tourism survey because we needed to have a plan B. On the 1st of April, we start to plan for Mufaja. Mufaja means surprise in Arabic. What we were thinking of is to send Jordanians on surprise trips throughout Jordan, because there's so much beauty in this country, and there are so many cultures and religions that don't know about each other even. So this is when we started doing that. We also had a postpone, don't cancel campaign with our local vendors on these pictures in Jaraj, in Umkais, and in Petra, who normally work for us on a freelance basis, but now just like that, all of their income fell away as well. And we wanted to provide them with hope for the future by postponing the trip and being able to sustain them with an income, even though it was later throughout the year. On May 3rd, after monitoring very closely everything that happened in the international market, we shared the international travel in Jordan recommendation that we wrote. It's written by one of my colleagues, Raul, and we shared it, and you can also find it in the handout of this presentation, of this webinar. And it gives really practical output and handles on where your strategy should go. Now, on June the 6th, which is not so long ago, Jordan eases restrictions, and this meant that we could go into Petra and shoot videos and promotional materials without any tourists being there. On June the 7th, we had the soft launch of Mufaja, Jordan. Our slogan is "Go where you're meant to go," and we had a press release announcing this. And since that time, everything has been picking up pretty fast. The first request come in with Mufaja just shortly after that, and we were so happy because we're, this is what we do, this is what we love to do, and we can send people again to all these communities around the path that who need some sort of income for these, to revive, to make all these livelihoods, the livelihoods of those people come back again. Just yesterday, we had, not yesterday, but yesterday they went on a trip. On June the 13th, we had the first confirmed booking. And we were incredibly happy about it. It were 3 girls who organized a birthday trip for each other, and they went where they meant to go, and they absolutely loved it. So what we're going to do next? Obviously, we now have 2 brands, an international brand and a local brand, and both audiences, they need something different, because if you send somebody to Petra who comes from abroad, they will be amazed. But if you send somebody to Wadi Rum, just like that, who is from Jordan, they've seen that already. So we now need to do capacity building. We're working together with the locals to create great experiences that encourage slower and more sustainable travel that are suitable for both markets. We can do that in Little Petra. We are going to do it all over. For example, in Petra or in Aqaba. And another thing that we want to focus on is the Holy Jordan website that has been launched by the Jordan Tourism Board. And basically, what we want to do is to connect the Old and New Testament to places in Jordan and really lift the religious tourism in Jordan to the next level. We have the Moses Spring in Wadi Musa, we have the Aeolus in Petra, we have Mount Nebo, but Moses walked through all in between those places as well, and we can pinpoint those places on a map, and you can find a handout with a short introduction to these places in Jordan and the region in the handouts of this webinar as well. Now, this is the last slide I want to show you. In Jordan, in October, we have the negotiation and leadership course. As for now, everything is going to continue, and we really want to, we really hope to welcome you in October. Yes, so that's my presentation. Jess will tell more about the negotiation trip later on and how you can join this. Anissa, back to you.
Thank you. When you talk about the Moses Trail, the Abraham Path, there is no shortage of prophets in that part of the world. And but in Jordan, we're really talking about the north to south trail that is now called the Jordan Trail, right? And Abraham Path Initiative was instrumental in getting that whole project started in the northern part, in the Ajloon area of Jordan. And we talked with one of the guides from the Jordan Trail last time we gathered here, Issa Dwekat, who talked about the first days, because I knew him back in 2010 when he started.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to remind our viewers that we welcome your questions. There's a spot on your control panel that says questions, and you can write them in. And after we've heard from Dimitri, we'll be able to put your questions to both him and to Carmen. And as she said, there are a couple of handouts there. So you can download those handouts, and I'll tell you about the other handouts when it's time a little bit later on. Dimitri, we would love to see your presentation and to learn much more about the work of Aeolus Tours.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk a bit about our work, and I'm going to go a bit further in our history before the COVID-19 crisis to give you a little background information about our journey and what we have done over the last few years. So first off, who are we? We are a family-owned tour operator in Jerusalem, as Anita has mentioned before. And we are a multi-generational tour operator slash DMC that has been operating in the region, focused mostly on the Holy Land, Jordan, and Egypt, but focused the most on the Holy Land itself. My dad started the company in 2001. My mom has been with Alitalia, the airline, for the last 30-something years, and actually we were their GSA for the last 5-6 years until the end of last year. I joined the company in 2013, in which case a lot of the region was in trouble. I'm sure some people remember the Gaza war that happened late that year and continued in 2014. And in which case we saw that we needed to diversify and rebrand ourselves because the way we were conducting tourism was not sustainable and it was bad for the environment, and as well as it did not actually offer a valuable experience to many visitors as it was very much mass tourism. The history of the company goes back to Christian pilgrimages, and this is a tourism market that has been going on for the last millennia. In the late 20th century, things started basically developing with information technology and travel technology becoming more accessible and cheaper, and actually, I mean, in a sense, existing, to be honest, because before that, I mean, it was not easy to organize any of that travel. I know stories from my dad where they used to send requests via telegram. So you can imagine how much email and airplanes and all of that technology kind of helped in creating this kind of environment. The items we diversified from was, first of all, we had to reinvent our Christian pilgrimage programs. The way we were doing it was just unsustainable. And then we ventured more into culture and history, the Abraham Path, and finally we have our own signature unique experiences. The Abraham Path for us is one of the closest and dearest parts of what we do because it very much touches base on all the other products that we work on, and it just kind of shares everything together and gives you a sense about how everything goes historically, culturally, and almost in every aspect while you are active and while you are able to walk. And so this is what we have come up to, and the future hopefully will continue on that path going forward. Pre the coronavirus was a very good time for us. After I joined in 2013 and we have done all that work, things started looking up. It got to a point that last year we had invested into more staff, just like Carmen did in Jordan, because tourism was booming so much and things were going great. The photo you see is of me last year going on a roadshow in the US, joined by other operators from around the world who work with their own destinations from India to New Zealand to Australia, and they of course all work in similar products as well as adventure travel. And so everything was going great until the end of last year, and things were going good, and we were actually thinking of how, what kind of plan should we set for the next 5 years, ending of course with 2025, and where do we hope to be by then? And so then the coronavirus hit, and the fallout was massive. We lost all the growth we had since 2013, and for us, of course, that is still kind of, for a small company, was still much more manageable than a lot of our other colleagues. The guy in the picture is one of the people around the old city in Jerusalem who distributes the carob drink. It's from the local carob tree, and they have been doing this for years and generations. And this particular guy who spends all of his time around used to spend all of his time around Damascus Gate is for us is the indication of the biggest loss, because these are the people who provide the experiences that we provide, that embody them. They are the basis of what we do. They are what we want to show to people, and they are the biggest jobs and livelihoods that were hit by this coronavirus, by COVID-19. And so over the last 3 months, it has been very difficult here. The governments, both governments that we have, the Palestinian government and the Israeli government, had no idea how to handle this. They have been successful in terms of healthcare, in terms of how to handle the epidemic in terms of the health issue, but they were not super able to handle that economically. And so we have started pulling through together with different stakeholders as much as we can to help each other stay afloat, as we hope to come back hopefully soon to a world where we can work together again. Where are we now? Of course, the last 3 months for us have been mostly a blur. Things went down so quickly for us that we had to basically let go a good part of the staff. I'm currently the only person from the company who is still actively working and answering emails. Everybody else has gone to find, well, still looking, but have gone to find other things that they can do to help their families. My parents specifically are trying to do other things because there's no income from tourism right now. And so it's been a very rough time. But we have decided and have been able to kind of regroup at least for a little bit and giving every one of us some part-time work for the company, and to kind of really to see where we are going, how we're going to tackle the issue, and how we can be active members in getting tourism back to our destinations. The picture you see is Hani. He's my brother. He is hopefully, maybe starting next week, depending if he passes his exam or not, will be the resident guide in our company. And he will be the one who will be mostly helping out with the product development going forward. I picked up for the company consultancy with the GIZ program. The GIZ is an equivalent of USAID from the German government. They have partnered with the task force set by MOTA, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities in Palestine, to figure out how we can get back to tourism safely. And so I'm consulting on that project with a good number of international consultants to try and figure out what standards we should be adopting so that we can open the tour markets quickly and safely. And at the same time, we can have a playbook of how tourism suppliers are supposed to function, and everything from the biggest hotels to the homestays to the guides to the people who sell even vegetables on the streets to tourists, or even fruits. So all of these things are being taken into account, and this is one of the ways we are contributing. Another way is we found that it is not actually good for us, not just as a company, but as people who are active in this industry, to just drop whatever we are doing. And so we are picking back up our product development, and we are actively reinventing and innovating our products. And so the idea is, after this terrible period is behind us, we can actually say that we have found new ways and we have new ideas about how we can make this more about the experience that people get on the ground, and people experience on the ground, from dealing with the local community, from experiencing local foods, from basically anything and everything, and what are the flows and the programs, whether customized or set, that we provide. And so this is something that we are very much focused on right now with a lot of the stakeholders, because I mean, it's something that we feel that we have to do, and everybody else is basically looking for any kind of work, even volunteering if they have to, so that they can get out of the mood of just sitting at home. The last thing is that we are focusing a lot on our skill growth and our experience uh, with handling COVID-19. All of us have picked out individually, of course, different jobs that relate to handling COVID-19. My youngest brother, Fadi, is helping out at a hospital. Hani is working at the Police Institute in Jerusalem, dealing with students coming back to classes, and so basically educating himself about how you're supposed to act and how you're supposed to clean after people and disinfect and all of these issues. I myself am consulting for GIZ, and Tony is actually looking to start an NGO that would a nonprofit that focus on helping people, or at least a good specific number of people who have been drastically hit by the coronavirus. So we are all kind of figuring out what ways we can educate ourselves, not only for, of course, livelihood, of course, that will replace what we have lost, but also we feel that it is necessary for us to get that experience so that when things can start reopening, we can invite people back responsibly because we have that experience and we know how to handle that and we know what to look for. Basically, this is my short presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any and all of them.
Thank you, Dimitri. Appreciate that. Um, all of us have had to be nimble and be willing to shift very quickly and agilely and gracefully in these times when we have surprises coming at us over and over. And the biggest challenge I faced really from my own seat was in March, because we had a walk all ready to go with Aeolus tours. And it was going to be a walk in South Jordan, a short walk. I've got my little headset is beeping. I don't want you to be worrying you out there in the world that I'm a Borg or some kind of a spy. It's my headset beeping. Anyway, and we didn't want to cancel. We didn't want to pull back. We didn't want to leave the service providers without those jobs and the money and all of that. But eventually we had to, because Israel announced there would be no tourism going into the West Bank, and that was pretty much made the decision for us. We have a question along those lines that's come to us from Kathleen, who asks, as a tour operator, especially with regard to the October 2020 trip, and Carmen can talk about that, but Dimitri, you can talk about the walk in March. How have your cancellation policies changed due to COVID?
So our cancellation policies have not really changed. We make it always our best to focus on helping people first, not only because tourists are the head of the value chain, I mean, obviously, but also because we want people to be comfortable, and if people are not comfortable, they're not going to be comfortable to travel or to do anything at all now or afterwards. Primarily, and also because we are people, and so it's important for us to be empathetic. It's important for us to understand where people are coming from, and we also come from a region where tourism gets hit every few years. I mean, we had the first Intifada, we had the second Intifada, we had a few Gaza wars. So like we're kind of almost used to every few years having a difficult time. The only difference now is that it's not just affecting us; it's affecting the whole world. So for us, they have not really changed. We're just more concerned about people, and we want them to come back in a safer environment, and we want them to feel that whoever is sending them to us is responsible as we are.
Carmen, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, we also have been working with our general terms or terms and conditions, because we found that we had some twitches in there and that we wouldn't be prepared for another COVID situation. And we also work with people from around the world. So you have like European guidelines, and the tour operators are the people who send us guests to be the ground operator who work according to those laws. And we also have the American laws, and they are completely opposite from each other. So we need to split our general terms in half, basically. We make them suitable for both source countries, because we do a lot of business with both of them. And and then we're still working on it, to be honest, because you want to be able to offer flexibility, but we are also figuring like, okay, maybe we should keep some money apart to still contribute to these local economies in case people cancel last minute. Because postponement is never a problem, but canceling just means that there's no future income either. So that's it's very tricky at the moment, yeah.
So how many people are we talking about here? How many people do you see in a typical year?
Right, so what we basically do is we try to introduce everybody to a piece of the path. So we make it accessible for everyone. So it's not only like the hardcore hikers who do everything from up of Jordan to the south, but we pick out nice pieces where people can go on short walks and meet the local communities. And if you count those together, it's around 1,000, 2,000 yearly of people that we introduce to the region and to the local experiences. Yeah.
Dimitri, what is your population? Do you have?
So our basically annual number does not usually exceed 1,000 people. We focus a lot on a lot of quality travel, and the West Bank and Israel being very expensive compared to Jordan and Egypt and other sectors of the world, we have to get a little bit more, I mean, choosy, for lack of a better word, with who we work with and what kind of objectives we hope to meet on those trips. And so we focus a lot more on that quality aspect, and that means we invest a lot more time, and we'll invest a lot more effort on the ground when people come. And so we can, at the moment, we can, when everything started going bad, we could handle up to 1,500 with our new staff this year, but we have never really gone over 1,000 people before.
Okay. I have two questions that are sort of related. One from Oliver, who notes that in Germany, local people are rediscovering their own nation, right? Making trips at home instead of going abroad. For Carmen, then, is the experience the same in Jordan, where people are rediscovering their country instead of going abroad, or is this a brand new discovery of Jordan?
I guess, well, both. Because there's 101 things you can do in Amman, for example, that are next door that you don't know about, which would be discovering or rediscovering another route in Petra, because there are 101 walks you can make. But we don't really have much choice at the moment because nothing is open. We can't go in or out of the country. So people are forced to either discover or rediscover their own country. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that means that we had another question, which is asking, are the Jordanian borders open to European travelers? The answer to that would be no at this time.
Right.
Right. And I imagine the Israeli borders are not open yet to travelers.
That's correct.
Abroad. All right. We have a question here from Honey, who asks, what's your opinion about online marketing like TripAdvisor? Is there a future in that world of the online advice?
All right, so I think it is the future, and for us as tour operators, we need to figure out ways to beat Booking.com or to beat TripAdvisor, and that's you can do that in different ways, of course. But what we do is we make customized programs, and we save you so much time of researching on those pages. And because there are a lot of nice things to do, but they're not always rated as a top attraction because they don't have the most reviews, for example, or people who simply don't know how to list themselves on TripAdvisor. So that's where we add our value to all of this. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, that is all very true. I don't think there's going to be a decline for them. I mean, drastically, of course, now tourism is not happening. They are always, of course, parts of the industry that complement us and compete with us at the same time. But I don't think they're going to close shop anytime soon. Basically because people are always going to be online and connectivity is only going to grow. I don't see any regression in our ability for technology as human beings, and that is just a fact. Even with the coronavirus, the most things that we see from our part, at least changing in tourism, will not change those industries, but will actually change our technology and will change the path of investments that countries will take.
Yeah.
If I may add to that, there is another thing that happened with this whole COVID crisis, because if you book your own trip and you're in a strange country, you don't have a contact person to call in case of emergency. And that's where the tour operators really stood out during this whole crisis, because we knew where to send people right away. So it's a tricky thing between the both, but yeah.
Well, the technology piece and the expertise is something that Abraham Path Initiative has also been looking at, and finding that the internet, just as these webinars are, and just as a regular weekly announcement we send out introducing people from the path, from the region, people who are homestay hosts or guides and so on. And also we've got a new website that we're launching, and on it we have an opportunity for people to register for what we call Abraham Path experiences. And the internet is really the best way for people to hear about them. And that was the walk-in march with Aeolus, and that is the upcoming negotiation and leadership course in Jordan, which we'll talk about a little bit more. I'm going to bring my colleague Jessica Menashe on board here now. She is our product and relationship manager, and she's going to walk us through the website's section on Abraham Path experiences. And talk please a little bit, Jess, about what our intention is with the experiences. We're not a tour operator and we're not guides, but we are offering these boutique opportunities to learn.
That's right. Thank you, Anissa. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here tonight. And I was on this same webinar 2 weeks ago, different webinar, but a different guest with Asa Dwikat and Zaid Azhari, two of our guides, to present the Book a Guide platform, which we also just launched very recently. And I'm very excited to be here tonight to show you about the Abraham Path experiences. And before that, I just want to share the content and the conversation around this tonight in particular. And I say tonight because I'm actually based in the region as an API staff member. It's touching in a different way, because these are relationships that the Abraham Path Initiative has been building overnight, not over time, I should say. They did not happen overnight. I've been in contact with Dimitri and his family at Aeolus Tours for over 2 years now. And we've had so many conversations in person, over the phone, over Skype, across oceans and seas, and in coffee shops in Jerusalem to begin crafting these Abraham Path experiences. And what we really found is that our values as the Abraham Path Initiative, as Aeolus Tours, and also as people are aligned in what we want to do and what we want to craft and what we want to bring people and what we hope people will experience on the ground here. And it's the same thing with Carmen and the team at Interim Jordan, who have been nothing but cooperative and diligent in everything that they do. So I just want to say that thank you for joining us tonight. And I really feel for what you and your teams are going through. And I admire the work and the commitment. And I will show you the Abraham Path experiences on our website now. And with that, the first, you should be able to see my screen now. So this is our homepage. When you go to abrahampath.org, and right at the top, in the second tab to the right, when you go to Abraham Path Experiences, the window will pop up, and you can see here, Walk, Meet, Exchange. And really, these are curated journeys. They're themed, and this is really to answer many of the inquiries and emails that we receive in all of our inboxes, in specific email addresses that we've set up over the years, and through our board of directors, through our supporters, through our fellow walkers, and the people that we meet in person throughout time, and all of the talks that we have the opportunity to give around the world on how do we walk with you, with the Abraham Path Initiative. We want to experience the region, we want to see these places and meet the communities that you write about, that we receive your postcards, that we get to see on your webinars, that we see in your talks. And that's what Abraham Path experiences are about. And it's about reciprocity and the opportunity to come here and meet these communities and have these experiences. And just to give you an example of what it would be like to book one of these, you can see the leadership and negotiation course, which is scheduled to take place in Jordan this October. And when you click on it, this is the product page. And you'll have information about the course, when it's scheduled to take place, the cost, the locations in southern Jordan, the difficulty level, and we can explain what it means, what we mean by medium. And you can read about the course. You have information on dates and locations, the requirements, what to expect. For example, concerns that folks may have around language, physical conditions. Will there be support for my luggage? What if I'm tired part of the way, but I really do want to participate in this experiential course? Well, am I still able to join? And the answer is, of course. We mentioned our partners and our course leader, of course, who's the current chair of our board of directors, Josh Weiss, Dr. Josh Weiss. And if you would like to go.
Just tell a little bit about the course itself, which is quite an exciting opportunity for people.
So this course specifically, and I can speak a little bit about that because I've received the training at the Harvard Program on Negotiation, is really an introductory course to what we call leadership and negotiation. And the reason why it's very focused on the PON, you can see here at the bottom, in the middle of the page.
That's program on negotiation.
Exactly, the program on negotiation model at the Harvard Law School. And the pedagogy is mostly designed from the Getting to Yes, which is a book co-authored by the founder and chair emeritus of our organization, William Ury, and Roger Fisher. And really, this is a course to give folks an introduction around life skills. It does not matter what your role is in your daily life. I'll bring on my camera just for one moment so that I'm not just speaking into a screen. But really, it's a course that, regardless of what your role is, these are really life skills. It's to move from a competitive mindset to a cooperative mindset. What do I do if I feel like I'm being pushed into a situation or a deal that I'm not necessarily wanting to move into? How could I build stronger partnerships or stronger alliances and have better relationships? So that's really what this course is about. And no doubt that down the line we'll have most likely another webinar, and we'll have calls and more information available where Dr. Josh Weiss will also be able to provide more information. And all of this preparation is well underway. And just one more piece of information that I'd love to show you is how to book, which is very easy, right here at the very bottom. And all of our experiences are like this, and it's a part of our e-commerce platform we set up similarly to our Book a Guide platform with Shopify. It's one of the most reliable plugins in the World Wide Web at the moment. You can make a deposit or you can submit a full payment, and that is specifically for the leadership and negotiation walk. And
Jess, we've lost your audio for a moment. Could check that you're not on mute, okay? Jess, please check that you're not on mute.
We don't pretend to be, we are hopeful, and we will always be hopeful, and that is the ethos of our organization. And similarly, as you can see through these partnerships, which are founded on trust and close contact. And they are the experts. Aeolus tour operators like Aeolus Tours and Into Jordan have daily contact and connection to the service suppliers on the ground, the hotels, the guest houses, the family homestays, the guides, the drivers, and of course their respective ministries and the border. They know what is going on. So we are closely monitoring the situation, and we will keep you all in the loop as to what the future will bring. But in the meantime, do please feel free to go ahead and make your reservation. And if you have any inquiries, of course, you can reach us here at the very bottom at experience@abrahampath.org.
Thank you, Jess. That's great. Why don't you stay on, and let's bring Dimitri and Carmen back for our last 5 minutes or so together. There were a couple other questions, and in fact, one does come from Josh Weiss, who's a chair of our board and who will be leading the negotiation walk coming up. And he wonders, what is the biggest surprise that people have expressed when they travel to this region? How does it contrast with what they thought they might see?
Well, I guess I should answer it, no? I think the people around the path, that's really, that makes all trips to Jordan, that makes the best memories, let me put it like that. You will never forget that one time that you sat in a cave with that local Bedouin who was sharing stories about his grandfather, or that you went to Aqaba and, snorkel in the Red Sea on the end of the path, actually. And celebrating that you walked all of this. These, I think really and of course we have a spectacular landscape. There are so many things that we have here in Jordan, which I'm so happy to share about. I can go on about it forever. Basically, what we will do during the negotiation trip is to walk the whole Rift Valley through Petra. And it's a spectacular landscape where you go through multiple climates, and you will find different tribes of Bedouins who will welcome you throughout the country.
And Dimitri, thank you. Dimitri, you're in a different case, bringing people through Palestine. What are some of the biggest surprises people have shared with you?
So a lot of the times it's mostly understanding that there's more to human beings around the world than we think there are living in our little bubbles. And that's, mostly you get that through travel, but in our case, because we're so focused on the experience, you really get that because, as Carmen said, you get to meet people, you get to talk to people, you get to realize that these are actually people who have their own stories, their own lives, their own set of experiences, and you get to share. And for them, this is one of the most surprising things, and not in a bad way, in a very good way, just to see how the world works out, how these people conduct themselves, how they have different qualities of life, how they also have different ways of life. And this is a very surprising thing, especially nowadays, how the world is very globalized. And so people expect some of that same culture everywhere, but when they come here and they come with us on those experiences, they see everything else. They see all the parts that you do not see in the media. You see the parts that are not properly represented, and you see people who are every day trying to make it in this new world and still cultivating and protecting their culture as we move forward. And I feel like this is the most valuable aspect in our industry, is our ability to get people around the world to meet each other and exchange. And that by itself is, for me, the most rewarding thing.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question for the audience. It's a poll, and we're going to ask you, when you travel and when you walk, do you typically use a tour operator or not? Just a yes or no answer. And then we're going to ask you, when you travel, what do you most appreciate about the traveling that you do? Are you interested in sites? Are you interested in history? Are you interested in, good food? So let's see the results of this one. Most people have said both. They make their own travel arrangements. and they use tour operators. That's interesting, terrific. That's good news for the tour operators in particular. And then let's look at this second poll. What do you like to do the most when you're traveling in Jordan, let's say? What would you most like to experience on a walk in Jordan or Palestine? Let's see what kind of answers we get there. History and culture are right there at the top. Strenuous walking is coming in third. Very good. Very good. I think it's a great idea to go for history and culture, as for me, especially as I'm traveling, because I feel connected across boundaries of time and space with others. So those are interesting results. Thank you very much for participating there. I want to point out as we close that there are handouts for you in the handout section. We also have as a handout our Abraham Path Initiative 2019 annual report. And some of you will find your names in there because you are sponsors and supporters of this not-for-profit. Everything that we do is thanks to participation and support from people like you. In the center, you'll find a section on the Abraham Path experiences. And if you choose to make a gift to the Abraham Path Initiative today or this week as a result of participating in our webinar, we're actually going to send to you a copy of William Urey's Getting to Yes, co-authored with Roger Fisher. So William is the founder of the Abraham Path Initiative, and he is our chair emeritus. And this is a seminal book in the art of negotiation. So if you choose to make a gift to the organization, we'll be very glad to send you a copy of that book. Any last words from any one of you wonderful guests who've joined us today? Especially Carmen and Dimitri. Let's see what you'd like to close with, and then we're going to show a quick video at the very end.
Shall I go first? I really hope to welcome everybody soon again to Jordan, and in a safe situation, obviously. And yeah, greetings from Aqaba. Thank you for joining tonight.
I also want to thank everyone for joining, and thank you for setting this up. I also want to say, last but not least, the most important part of tourism is, again, exchange, and for us to be able to communicate and to discuss issues and to think about things and wonder together, for me, it's the basis of how we're going to get back to seeing people on the ground. And thank you for that very much.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Jess. I'm Anisa Mehdi, Executive Director of the Abraham Path Initiative, and we're going to leave you with a very short video from Into Jordan that gives you a sense of the fun you will have when you travel there. This is a promo piece for their Mufaja program, the domestic travel, but I'm sure Carmen would be happy to give surprise journeys to internationals also when we have a chance to go back.